Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar on the Natural Health Products Unprocessed Product License Applications Regulations, more easily referred to as UPLAR. My name is Ann Wilkie, and I will be your presenter for the next 30 minutes. Today's webinar is brought to you by Dicentra. Dicentra is a leading international scientific and regulatory consulting firm with specialized expertise in the areas of natural health products, dietary supplements, over-the-counter drugs, foods, and cosmetics. To contact us, please visit our website, email us, or phone us. The Dicentra team thought that it was important to host this webinar today to help ensure that you had the necessary information upon which to base your business decisions in the coming months. The objectives of today's webinar are to inform you about the recently passed and implemented Natural Health Products Unprocessed Product License Applications Regulations, to help you understand how they are to be interpreted and implemented, as well as to discuss how these new regulations will affect market access, as well as your business strategy for Canada, and also how Dicentra can help you. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll look at the following topics. We'll look at what is UPLAR, what are the Unprocessed Product License Applications Regulations for natural health products. What is the scope of these regulations? Which products are encompassed by UPLAR? We'll also look at how to apply for an exemption number and what it means to have an exemption number. We'll also look at a couple of policies that have recently come out in relation to the UPLAR regulations. One is the application management policy, and one is the compliance and enforcement policy, which is not yet released but will be out shortly. As well, there's a guidance document on the requirements for non-medicinal and medicinal ingredients. All these documents will affect how you go to market over the next few years. So what exactly is UPLAR? It's a new standalone regulation under the Food and Drugs Act. It doesn't replace the Natural Health Products Regulations. It's another regulation that the natural health products industry has to deal with. It's a temporary solution that is put in place to deal with the approximately 10 to 12,000 unlicensed products that are still waiting a licensing decision from the Natural Health Products Directorate. As well, it will be applied to new product license applications that are submitted over the next few years. As mentioned, it's a temporary solution to this problem of unlicensed products and the backlog that Health Canada is dealing with. It will be repealed in 30 months. So as of February 2013, this regulation will no longer be enforced unless it is extended in time. It provides for a voluntary exemption from the prohibition against sale without a license. So within the Natural Health Products Regulations, it says you must not sell a natural health product unless it has a license. These regulations allow you to go to market with an exemption number, which is not a product license, but it acts the same. So it is a voluntary exemption. Again, you do not have to apply for an exemption number. It is entirely up to you and your business strategy. The push for these regulations really came from a position that was issued by the National Association of Pharmacy Regulatory Authorities back in January of this year. And basically it stated that pharmacies should not sell unlicensed products, whether they be natural health products or whether they be over-the-counter drugs. If they didn't have a license, they shouldn't be sold by pharmacists. Obviously, this was a significant backward step for the industry. It would have eliminated a distribution channel for suppliers. It would have prevented consumers from accessing products that were in pharmacies. So Health Canada, in consultation with the stakeholders, came up with this temporary but important solution. So again, this regulation will exempt certain products, those that meet specific requirements from the regulation that requires them to have a product license. So if they have an exemption number, then they'll be deemed legal for sale. So again, this has been a fairly quick turnaround for these new regulations. They were initially published in Canada Gazette Part 1 on May 8th of this year. There was a 30-day comment period during which stakeholders such as Dicentra commented on the proposed regulations. You can see because of the quick turnaround in the registering of the regulations, the final regulations, that there was general support for this proposed regulatory amendment. As I say, it was an emergency situation. Health Canada needed to address the position taken by the pharmacists and by other retailers that wanted to sell only products that were licensed. So again, the regulations were registered on August 4th, which was this past Friday, and they became effective on the date of registration. So as of August 4th, UPLAR came into effect, and already numerous suppliers are taking advantage of the new regulations. There were only a few minor changes between what was published in Canada Gazette Part 1 and what will be published in Canada Gazette Part 2 in the coming weeks, and we'll identify those changes as we move along. So the first thing that you need to do to see if you comply with UPLAR, or if you can take advantage of these new regulations, is to identify and determine if your products are eligible, if they fall under the scope of UPLAR. And this is a change because when the Natural Health Products Directorate first came out to stakeholders and was talking about these proposed regulations, they said that they would identify to companies the projects that were eligible. This is not the case. You must identify your own products. You must identify the ones that are eligible for exemption. The information that hopefully you received on Friday via a beep email, that's the only notification that you're going to be getting right now for products that have submission numbers. So what you must do is it's up to you to identify the products that are eligible under UPLAR. You can do it yourself, or you can use third parties such as dicentra, and we've already been active in submitting fax-back forms for companies. So products that comply. If you have submitted a complete product license application to the Natural Health Products Directorate and you've been issued a submission number, that's one of the criteria. So if your application was complete in terms of safety, efficacy, quality data, a complete product license application, label text, animal tissue form, etc., depending upon the product license application type, if your application was deemed to be complete and issued a submission number, you're partway there. If your application has been withdrawn, it's not eligible for an exemption number. The same if your application has been refused, you are not eligible for an exemption number. So further to that, you must have been in queue. You must have been awaiting a licensing decision from the Natural Health Products Directorate for at least 180 days. And that 180 days starts from the date that you got your submission number. So obviously it's going to be more than 180 days since the date you submitted. But the date that's important is 180 days from the date that you received your submission number. So again, if you've got a complete application that's got a submission number and it's been in queue for over 180 days from the date that you got your submission number, your product license application so far qualifies for an exemption number. One thing to note, because this is a temporary solution, that the regulations will no longer be in effect as of February 2013, which is the sunset date at this time. Any applications that are submitted less than 180 days before this date will not be eligible for an exemption number because the regulations will have expired by the time they qualify. And if you take into consideration that you'll probably need a lead time of at least 30 to 40 days to get that submission number, you're looking at early July, August of 2012. So product license applications submitted after that date will not qualify for UPLAR, unless, again, the regulations are extended in duration. The other criteria that's important to note, if your product meets any one of the risk criteria, then it is no longer eligible for an exemption number. So the risk criteria that have been identified, if your product is a sterile product for ophthalmic use, it will not be eligible for an exemption number. And it has to be the combination. If you have a sterile product, then it could be eligible. But if it's a sterile product for ophthalmic use, it will not be eligible for an exemption number. If it contains any prohibited substances, such as those on Schedule F, which are prescription drugs, or any controlled drugs and substances, again, this product will not be eligible for an exemption number. If the product has Schedule A claims, these are disease states that require practitioner intervention and include things such as asthma or obesity, cancer, depression. Again, these products are not eligible to apply for an exemption number. If your products are for use in children under 12 years of age, again, they cannot apply for an exemption number. So if you have directions for use that says the product is for all ages, you will not be able to apply for an exemption number because that includes children under 12 years. The same if it says for children of all ages, you will not be able to apply. So you have to be careful in your dosing directions if you're over 5 years of age. The same if your product is for use in or breastfeeding women, you cannot apply for an exemption number. However, if you have a claim on your products, something to the effect of contains folic acid, which helps reduce the risk of neural tube defects, unless you have specific directions for use in pregnant women, you would still be able to apply for an exemption number for this product because it's the claim. It's not the dosing directions for use that are targeted at pregnant women. The other disqualifier for an exemption number is that the product contains an ingredient that has been subject to a recall or stop sale. In the information that was sent out on Friday to stakeholders, there's Appendix B that listed all these ingredients. Some of them include nattokinase, lumbrokinase, synephrine N-caffeine when combined in a product, blue-green algae, ephedra, ephedrine, and kava. So these have been identified as ingredients that have been subject to a recall and stop sale, and which would make your product ineligible to apply for an exemption number. So there are some exceptions if some of these ingredients are found in homeopathic remedies, for example. So all of these products, you can still continue to apply for a product license application. It does not mean that you are disqualified from getting a natural product number or a DIN-HM. It just means you cannot apply for an exemption number, and it means that you need to have a full safety, efficacy, and quality review and get your license before going to market. The other comment I wanted to make with regards to the last bullet point, again, if you have a product and it was subject to a stop sale, but for something such as advertising violations or labeling violations, the stop sale was not related to the ingredient of a safety, not a safety issue, then you can continue to apply for an exemption number. So if as they say, if the stop sale was for advertising issues and those advertising issues have been corrected, the stop sale has been lifted, then you can apply for an exemption number. So in terms of process, again, once you have identified the applicable products, ones that fall under the scope of UPLAR, you have 60 days to request an exemption number. So this is 60 days from the date of eligibility. So for any products in the system now that have been with Health Canada for 180 days or longer since they received a submission number, you have 60 days from August 4th to request an exemption number. So by October 3rd, you need to request an exemption number for those products that qualified as of August the 4th. And then the date will change depending on the eligibility date. But again, you have to keep in mind you have 60 days to get back to the Natural Health Products Directorate, and they're not, for products that already have a submission number, they're not going to be giving you any more information than what you received on Friday. So what you need to do is complete the fax back form for exemption, which was part of the email package you received on Friday. Within there, there's specific information that's requested, including the company name and the code being that assigned by the Natural Health Products Directorate. You must identify the name of the senior official, or if you're using a designated third party to fill out the applications on your behalf, then that party's name must be identified there. The next hurdle is to check off either option A or B. One says to exempt all product license applications with submission numbers under this company's name. So that any submission number that's present in the system for company A, you're requesting exemption numbers for, or to exempt all PLAs with submission numbers under company A's name with the exception of the following submission numbers. So again, it's up to you to identify the products that are eligible for exemption numbers and to identify the ones that are not eligible according to the risk criteria. Again, because this is a voluntary system, if you do not want to get an exemption number for your products for whatever reason, for whatever business decisions, you do not have to. It's a voluntary decision. So once you've identified the PLAs and the submission numbers that you want to have exempted, the next box is asking if there are any PLAs that you wish to withdraw. So maybe you've had a submission in there since 2004. It's no longer valid. You're no longer wanting to take that product to market. Then you should identify that you want to withdraw that product license application and give the submission number. It will just help to speed things up within NHPD. It'll help them avoid reviewing product license applications that are not even going to go to market.